For people who want to get into aviation and maybe aren't sure if they want a career or just to fly around and have some fun and have amazing experiences, how should they look at things?
Well, first off, I'm gonna say this right to the viewer. If you're getting into aviation for money, I mean that's great, but you're getting into it for the wrong reason because you're gonna spend a lot of money before you make money. So if you're just doing it for the money, you better have some upfront in order to get things going. Now that being said, I think we're gonna eventually talk about some stuff that can help you save money in your journey. But yeah, that's the first disclaimer. The second one, what should you know?
Welcome to the Fly Media Podcast. I'm your host, O, as always. Today we've got another exciting episode. We've got Jack Grubb, an adventurous CFI who doesn't just have a passion for flying, but he actually has a superpower. And his superpower is his ability to network. And in aviation and life, networking will take you extremely far. So welcome my buddy, my friend, Jack.
Thanks, man. I'm excited.
I'm pumped to have you, man. It's been too long. We haven't hung out in a while, and I'm kind of upset it's taken me this long to get you on the podcast. So I'm super excited that you're here today.
Well, I hope this is the first of many. Let's go.
Most definitely. So Jack, like, what drew you to aviation in the first place?
I grew up on the stories of my grandpa. He was a World War II in Korea fighter pilot. And then he passed away when I was young, and somebody else showed me Top Gun at too early of an age. So I became convinced, like, I got to be a pilot. Life went different directions and eventually found my way back to aviation after multiple career starts and stops.
Amazing. So for you, it's in the family. And then, of course, like many of us, you saw Top Gun. You went, that's the thing. I got to do that.
Yeah, I
That's
thought for
amazing.
sure Naval Academy, jets, international relations. Instead, waited about 20 years too long and instead Archers and Cessnas.
Most definitely. So what were you doing at the time when you finally decided to take the leap and get into aviation?
So at the time, I was managing an ATV and snowmobile rental company in New Hampshire and Maine and having a lot of fun just sending it through the forest. And then I saw an end to that job and not necessarily a career. So I started looking around and thinking about, hey, what am I passionate about? What do I want to do? And this was during the height of the pandemic. So yeah, it took some time. Knew I didn't want to go back into teaching. Didn't think I wanted to go abroad at the time, given the shutdown of the world. And eventually kind of landed on, hey, you wanted to be a pilot. Can you still do that? Did some Googling. And I want to say maybe 2 weeks later, I was enrolled in flight school and living back home in San Diego.
Wow. So you moved back across the country, kind of not necessarily on a whim, but things changed doing what you were currently doing and said, aviation was something that really tickled me as a kid. How can I get into that now?
Exactly.
During that phase, did you know anybody who was, anybody to walk you through the steps of becoming a pilot? You just kind of figured it out on your own.
A little bit of both. My best friend's dad and his best friend are both pilots. So they kind of gave me some mentorship, but I didn't know enough to ask questions that would have been more helpful. And so from Googling stuff and just kind of figuring out myself, I had some ideas of this is the direction it needs to go. And so I started following that and over time learned types of questions you should have asked. And I didn't because I didn't know what I didn't know.
Well, of course, now that you mention it, I definitely have to know what are the type of questions that students should ask because I'm a new pilot myself, and I'm sure most of my viewers are people just getting into aviation, so this would be really impactful for them as well.
Yeah. By no means will this list be, inclusive of everything, but off the top of my head, things that need to be asked. I mean, at the beginning, it's just what are your goals? If you're doing this because you want to fly around and have fun, that's one thing. If you want to eventually go to the airlines or fly for Cal Fire or something like that, that's a different thing. So yeah, start with what your goals are and then look at different things of how do I get there? And most people think I just have to fly a bunch to get there, which is true. That's not necessarily the best way to start it.
Okay, so what would the best way be to start for for people who want to get into aviation and maybe aren't sure if they want a career or just to fly around and have some fun and have amazing experiences, how should they look at things?
Well, first off, I'm gonna say this right to the viewer. If you're getting into aviation for money, I mean that's great, but you're getting into it for the wrong reason because you're gonna spend a lot of money before you make money. So if you're just doing it for the money, you better have some upfront in order to get things going. Now that being said, I think we're gonna eventually talk about some stuff that can help you save money in your journey. But yeah, that's the first disclaimer. The second one, what should you know? Um, how to study. I came into aviation at the age of 31. So I had been out of college for, I don't know, 10 to 12 years or something at that point, and I didn't remember how to study, didn't know what it took. And so with that, I had a lot of stumbling blocks and things that I learned the expensive way because I didn't know how to do it myself.
Copy that. So you definitely want to brush up on good study habits and kind of being disciplined, right? As we talked a little bit offline, everybody wants to fly. Like when you start flight training, obviously you decided you want to fly. But the flying, even that part of the lesson, that's the fun part. You're in the plane, you're in the air, you're seeing cool stuff, you're doing things you haven't done before. But the part where most people stumble or decide, like, maybe this isn't for me, is when it comes time to put your head down and learn the book work,
Yeah.
which there is so much stuff that you're expected to have, I guess, good base knowledge of. You're not expected to be an expert in anything as a PPL, but there are things that you have to know and there are things that you have to be able to understand.
Yeah.
Even at a very, it's very wide and not necessarily very deep at the PPL level.
Yeah. So commonly said in aviation is the cockpit is the cockpit, the classroom is the classroom. And if you're trying, you can't do the cockpit work in the classroom, but if you want to do the classroom work in the cockpit, you're going to be paying a lot more money. So do that on the ground. Now, as a CFI, I can open up your brain and just spoon feed you all of that information, but you're going to be paying a CFI rate. In my experience, most CFIs charge, 80 to 140 bucks an hour, depending what it is. And so that really adds up a lot over time. Now, there are things that a CFI has to sit down with you and ensure you have that knowledge on the ground so that you're not going to be able to get away with all of it. But you could spend a lot of money that way. Or you could drop, $150 to $450 on a ground course that's online, something that's reputable. I'm not going to name any names here because I'm not trying to push anybody in one direction or another. But yeah, if you go on and online and do your $400 worth of work on the ground, rather than spend $4,000 or more to have the CFI do the work with you and hold your hand, you're going to have a much better time. And then if you can do that prior to getting into the airplane, you'll have the basis of knowledge of that's what a VOR is. This is how I create a nav log. This is how I do this. This is why we practice slow flight. Things like that will lead to a much better pilot and a much better pilot journey.
Right. The other thing that you mentioned, like leading to a much better pilot. In aviation, if you want to get into it, you have to want to study. You have to want to be the best pilot you can be. And that comes from a lot of the book work and understanding the concepts. Aviation's inherently dangerous.
Yeah.
You're in a plane, something that on its own doesn't just fly, right? So you have to understand how to get yourself out of trouble, and if things go wrong, how to troubleshoot them on the fly. That comes from a lot of this, not just this. It's very important because you want to be a safe pilot. If you want to become a pilot, I want you to become a pilot, but I only want you to do so safely, because if you become an unsafe pilot, guess what? You're going to make things bad and harder for the rest of us. The FAA is going to crack down. They're going to start making more rules and regulations and harboring the fun and the joy that we're so freely able to have within the confines of the rules.
Absolutely. Something I thought of for myself in flight school, because acronyms are everything in aviation. But you remember as a kid those WWJD bracelets?
Yes.
Yeah. So I kind of took that, but instead made it WWGW, or Whiskey Whiskey Golf Whiskey, which on a weekend when you're not flying is a great order. But in terms of aviation, what will go wrong? If you can plan for what will go wrong, every scenario, do your best at least to accomplish that. You're most likely going to make it back home safe and sound, and then be able to go fly again and have a good day.
Perfect. 100%.
Yeah, man.
So let's jump back into your story a little bit.
Okay.
Throughout the process, when when you started your aviation journey, started your flight training, what were the biggest struggles you had along the way?
Biggest struggles for me, touching back, just the learning how to study. I had to relearn it and maybe learn it for the first time in some ways, because growing up, things just were easy for me. So, yeah, going into this with the same mentality that had worked for me, 10, 15, 20 years prior wasn't going to work. So that was rough. In terms of specific areas, weather theory, that just didn't really mesh in my brain. Systems was, again, something that I had to really work at to understand. And now that I have the basis of knowledge, I get it.
As he was saying, the reason why having good study habits are so important is the plethora of information that's coming at you. When you walk into flight training, you think, hey, cool, I'm going to learn how to fly airplanes and quote unquote be a pilot. This will be great. Well, you walk in with a flight bag or a backpack and a headset, think you're going to learn how to fly. When you walk out, you're damn near a RN or a doctor. You are
Meteorologist, a lawyer.
a meteorologist and a lawyer. So you have to know so many things that don't necessarily, like in your mind, when you don't know any better, don't directly relate to aviation. You go, why do I need to know this? At night, do we use the cones or the rods in our eyes to see? Why do I need to know that? I still don't know why I need to know it, but best believe, come my check ride, I knew exactly that answer, and you will too.
Part of that was not necessarily the cones and the rods, but part of my struggle was it didn't seem necessary for me to understand how the six pack instruments worked because nobody explained to me how understanding how they work could then later on maybe save your life. Exactly. And so because I wasn't given that explanation, or maybe I just didn't hear that explanation, I don't want to necessarily say it was an instructor or somebody's fault for not giving it to me, but maybe I just didn't know to listen for it or something. But yeah, so if you can sit somebody down and tell them, this is why it's important to know the different fronts. This is why it's important to know how that system works, or this, because if this happens, then this happens, and then you die. Versus if this happens and you see it, you do this, and then you live. Right. And so when you can put it into that frame of reference, then it's like, oh yeah, it's really important for me to study that.
Understanding the whys is very important. If people just give you information, go know this, but why? Like, how does this help me in the realm of being in the cockpit?
Yeah.
Now that we talked about knowledge and the things that you struggled with, what is like your overall vision in aviation? So like, what is your goal?
Ultimately, I would like to be a DPE, designated pilot examiner. I want to continue in my educator role and eventually be not just the person who's putting the knowledge into somebody's brain, but giving the test saying, yes, you've learned enough. You can go out on your journey. Here's my stamp of approval. You're going to be a good pilot and be a safe pilot. So ultimately, I would like to do that. In order to get there, I do have a few years of time to put in, both as a flight instructor. I'm currently an FAA safety team rep. Haven't done anything for that. Only recently got signed on to it. But hopefully, I can help people be safer in my capacity. I would love a chance to do some sort of 135 or Part 91 work because while the airlines are great, and that's where a lot of people want to go, I'm at an age where hopefully children are around the corner. So I want to be there for their baseball games or their underwater basket weaving competitions. Whatever they end up being good at and enjoying, I want to be able to sit there and, I was going to say handy cam, but probably my iPhone, film what they're doing and be a part of their lives. So yeah, right now, more importantly for me is to be able to, support a family as well as be there for a family. Yeah, so DP 135, 91. If anybody has some opportunities, let me know.
See, networking, which is the next thing we're to talk about. How did like the networking that you're able to do and the fact that you pretty much speak to everybody you come in contact with, how has that shaped the opportunities that you've been presented with so far?
Oh man, somebody told me early on that anybody can get a rating, and that most places will hire based off of, do I want to spend 8 hours in the cockpit with this person? And I started thinking about that. And I was like, that makes sense because anybody can literally go put in the time to get their commercial rating, so long as they time in the work. Whether you're doing 250 hours on the dot or whether you do it in 600 hours, it can be done.
Right.
So it's just about talking to people and getting to know them and be able to connect with them, which in an instructor role, the way you learn, the way your wife learns, the way my fiance learns, the way anybody learns is going to be different based on the person. So you have to get to know the individual. So being able to, fit my knowledge and how I put it into somebody else's brain around them is really helpful. That in turn also, that skill set, lets me meet more people and talk to them. And coming from a background, in high school, I'm pretty sure I'm correct about this. I was the only kid on my campus who was in all the musical theater shows as well as played football or was in the plays and also played, volleyball and stuff like that. So I can talk to somebody about fantasy football all day long, or I can talk to you about Dungeons and Dragons all day long. You want to talk about, music or let's see, whether it's rock and roll or Blink 182 or NWA or show tunes or something like that, I can connect with you. I may not have the deepest knowledge on it, but I like it, and so I can talk to you. So yeah, just kind of coming from that varied background and knowing how to talk to people, it's been extremely helpful.
Currently, you are a flight instructor at Flight Dogs here in Hayward.
Yep.
Awesome. How did that opportunity come about?
That opportunity came about because I was looking for something new and just started going. And every single flight instructor job I've gotten has been gotten this way. You can email, you can call, but you're gonna be one of 1,000 faceless people who's doing that. So I show up looking the part. I know right now I'm just in my white t-shirt, but dress up, a button down or a polo or something, look like you're ready to work. Show up and I just walk in and say, "Hi, my name's Jack. I'm a flight instructor and this is what I'm looking for." Have my resume ready to go, chat whoever up is at the desk, get to know them, because the fact is anybody who's in that building, whether they're a client or a staff member, they're gonna have the ear of whoever's doing the hiring. And so don't bullshit. People can smell bullshit a mile away, but just be yourself and show why you would be a good fit there. You may not have all the knowledge. For example, I want to be a double I. I'm working on that right now. I don't have all of the knowledge that a double I would need, but if I can walk in and show that I have the personality that people want to be around and can learn from, anybody can put that knowledge in my brain. I can sit down and read up on, the double I stuff as necessary. So yeah, I got the job just by going and knocking on doors, shaking hands, smiling, talking to people, and finding opportunities.
You mean networking isn't just sending out an email or a random phone call? Oh, okay, got it, got it. So it's like actually showing up, the value of putting a face to the name,
Yeah.
because on your resume, even if it has your photo, they don't know you. They don't know your personality. They just know on paper, okay, you check a few boxes. But the biggest question, do I want to sit in an airplane with this person for 8 hours?
Exactly.
Do I want this person, influencing all of my new students and people who are becoming pilots, right? In aviation, it's been said the most important job in aviation is CFI, because you guys are the product of you guys is pilots. So when people crash, no matter how skilled or unskilled or new, or how, I shouldn't say skilled or unskilled, how many or how few hours that person has, it still looks back on, the training that they received at some point.
Yeah.
Was it, mechanical error? They say most aviation accidents happen due to human error. A mistake was made, something wasn't caught in time,
Yep.
because the airplane talks to you. Whether you believe it or not, the airplane talks to you in some way, shape, or form. And before anything goes wrong, there usually are some signs. Very infrequently is there a catastrophic failure like this.
Yeah.
Usually some went wrong. There were a few signs that may have been missed for whatever reason. And by no means am I here to put anybody else down. I'm a new pilot. I'm at about 230-ish hours. So I myself am in what's called the kill zone, that area between getting your private at around 100 to around 350 hours, where you have all the freedom in the world, but your skills may not quite have caught up to the amount of like freedom and ability you have to go places maybe you shouldn't.
Yeah. One of the most dangerous things is when someone doesn't want to learn anymore. Like, for example, I have more hours than you, but there are things you fly more high performance planes than I do. So I can learn from that. If you stop being open to learning new things, then you're going to be doing the same things over and over again. And that might be the wrong way to do it. It might be the unsafe way to do it. I have the advantage now as a CFI of constantly being around people who are brand new to this, and they all ask things in different ways. And to be fair, also find new ways to do things wrong. But that teaches me. I've learned far more as a flight instructor than I did from student pilot to earning my flight instructor rating, because I'm around it more and I get a chance to see it more, and then I can learn from it. I've also, on my own journey through student pilot to where I am now, I've made so many mistakes, and fortunately for me, I'm still here from them. None of them were life-threatening mistakes, but it's learning from that mistake is more important than what you could sit down and get from a book. Also, knock on wood that I'm still hearing you.
So even as a CFI and someone who's approaching, you said you're around 1,000 hours now?
Just about there. Yep.
Awesome. That's amazing. You said you've made tons of mistakes. I'm not asking you to go into them, but in saying that, you're letting people know, like, hey, no one's perfect.
Yeah.
And that kind of segues to something extremely important in having a checklist. Because we're not perfect, we can forget things that are supposed to be a part of our normal routine that maybe you take for granted because you're just moving too quickly. The importance of a checklist and being systematic and methodical through your processes as a pilot is how you give yourself the best opportunity to have a safe flight.
Exactly. Yeah. I made small boo boo on comms just flying over here to see you. I had done everything, ATIS, wrote it down, done everything right. And then when I called into tower, I requested a runway that was the exact opposite way that everybody else was landing. And they were like, we're not landing that way. And so my lesson there, I felt stupid. Bunch of people heard it, but I was like, oh, yeah, don't just write it down, but also remember, be like, hey, okay, I'm requesting 1-9, but nobody's using that runway because these are what the winds are. So it doesn't matter where you are in your career. If you're not using those checklists that are in front of you to, at a minimum, just verify that you've done everything correctly. Yeah,
Right.
you could end up, hopefully, just feeling dumb momentarily like I did. But the worst case scenario can be a lot worse than feeling dumb.
Right, most definitely. So learn from the mistakes, be open to learning. Don't go, oh, point the finger. There are things that you mess up on, you have to own and go, I messed up on that. Here's what I learned from it. Here's what I'm gonna do differently next time. And you're somebody that writes everything down. I know some people that, try to memorize things, and I tried a few times. I was like, no, no, no. That's not where we're going. We are going to write things down, and we're gonna make sure we brief, when we're in the plane together, you've seen everything I'm gonna say, whether I'm by myself or someone else in the plane, I say it out loud first, make sure it sounds right. If the person next to me catches the air, they go, hey man, you said this and this was okay, perfect. Then let's do that. So that's just one of the things that I personally use to help me because my brain goes like this. Shoom.
And it has to, like, to be up there and process all the information that we have, you have to constantly be going.
Yeah.
But just to touch on something you said, like, don't be afraid to make the mistakes, but don't be afraid to own up to them. People don't like somebody who's like, oh, I didn't make that mistake, or I already know that. I think as a kid, I had this problem of like being ashamed if I didn't know something. So I
Right.
pretended I knew it. And I had to have been in college before I realized, like, I'm cutting myself off from so many friendships or networking just by pretending I know that. Whereas if I just like, yeah, I don't know that, they're like, oh, cool. Let me teach you about what I'm passionate about or
Right.
something. So within aviation, we all don't know everything, as you said.
Yeah.
So admitting when you've made a mistake and that you don't know something, save your life a week, a year, 10 years down the line.
Right. Most definitely. So with your experience as a CFI, with all the students that you're working with, where would you say in general, like student pilots, PPL specifically, have like the most deficiency, your thing they struggle the most with?
Looking outside. There's so many gadgets these days, which are great. And I know this is an issue because I had the same issue as a student pilot. But we have, G1000s, 750s, G5s. You've got your iPad or whatever.
Yeah.
All of that's there. And this is out here. And people are like looking at this, trying to do everything. It's like, why can't you land the plane? Well, because you're looking down the whole time. Knowing what your airspeed is important, but you can look outside the airplane the whole time. You can feel if you're rising or falling. You can feel if you're slowing down or speeding up. You don't need to look exactly at it and see, I'm at 65, this is good, blah, 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 blah. Look outside the airplane. Eyes up, eyes out. It's VFR, visual flight rules. Yeah, scan inside to know where you are, to know what you need to know, but I always equate it to driving a car. When you're driving on the highway, you're not staring at the speedometer the whole time and then looking up and back inside. You're outside the whole time, scan inside. Cool. Back outside. Oh, there's cars next to me and everything. They're doing roughly the same speed. I'm probably okay. And that's how we should also fly the airplane. So the biggest issue a lot of people have is becoming too focused on the technology inside rather than looking outside.
I can relate to that. You must have talked to my CFI Gall, who's now in Florida, but there were a number of times like that was exactly like the main point of our debrief. Like, hey, you spend far too much time with your head down looking at the instruments. We're not flying IFR, we're flying VFR. Your scan needs to be 5 seconds out the plane to maybe 1 second inside the plane, hitting a few instruments, and then going back outside the plane. So that's something that I can definitely relate to because that was a problem that I had.
Yeah.
But it's not one that has been talked about frequently to me when I ask CFIs like what students struggle with. It's landings, comms, like those are the generic things, right? Like that's the hardest part of getting a PPL in the beginning is whatever phase you're on.
Yeah.
Day one, it's probably radios, then taxiing, then after you master taxiing, obviously it's going to be landings. That's what took me forever.
Takes everybody. But looking outside, and then I guess the next part would be a lot of places these days, at least from what I've experienced or seen and talked with people about, are teaching more like by the numbers and flying by the numbers. And so for this specific maneuver, you need to pull to this specific power setting, and then you need to pitch for this specific speed,
Yep.
and da 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 da. And so it's becoming too much. Like, am I here? Am I here? Am I here? Oh no, I'm out of standards, and
Right.
okay, I need to go do it again. Or oh no, I failed the check ride. Sorry, unsatted the check ride because it's not pass fail, it's sat unsat. Small detail, but yeah, we all know. But yeah, so when people are, for example, slow flight, what are we trying to do when we're pulling the power? We're not trying to get it back to 1,700 RPM or something like that. We're just trying to pull the power down to slow the airplane down because we're coming in for a landing.
Right.
So a lot of people, myself included, had to break this habit, pull the power, and we're becoming too worried about getting to 1,700. And now maybe our left hand or right hand, depending on what seat you're in, is too strong, and we're turning to the right, we're turning to the left, we're unsafe, we're already behind the airplane. So instead of flying by those numbers, pull the power back, start holding your altitude up, or your nose up, scan inside, see where I'm at, add in your flaps, whatever the maneuver is calling for. Don't look at it as I need to reduce to this power. Look at it as I know I need to slow the airplane doing, and then feel it as you're doing the maneuver. You can look outside, see you're getting lower,
Right.
feel you're getting slower, so you add some power back in. Don't I'm not saying don't ever glance at the tack, but yeah, that's certainly part of the look outside is don't fly by the numbers here, fly by what you're seeing outside.
Perfect. Great advice. And then in becoming a CFI, what would you say is like the biggest growing pain? From you pass the CFI check ride, but the development to become a good CFI.
That's just time and getting out there. Like I said before, I've learned far more from the right seat as an instructor than I ever did, student pilot to getting there. It is a very hard thing to do to become a flight instructor, and for good reason. You don't want just anybody out there doing it. But you can have all that book knowledge and experience in terms of now I'm sitting on the right seat and this is how you do a stall, blah, 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 blah. But until you get there and watch yourself try and put that into somebody else's brain while they're flying the airplane, um, you are a flight instructor, but you're not yet instructing people how to fly. And so you got to kind of take that time to grow and to learn. And I had some good opportunities that, again, by just walking in and talking and shaking hands, came across my lap and allowed me to learn and grow. And it's almost like CFI, getting that is you're getting your graduate degree or whatever, your undergrad, and
Yep.
then actually working and going through the time from, let's say if you got it at 300 hours, that time going from 300 to 700 hours, those 400 hours, it's like you're in grad school now and you're really learning and understanding where you were deficient yourself, and maybe you didn't see it, or maybe the way you memorize something isn't the actual best way to do it.
Okay. Perfect. Do you have any funny or memorable moments flight instructing?
Funny or memorable moments flight instructing. I mean, one memorable was when we were doing some touch and goes, and one of my clients had a bird strike. I mean, I'm piloting command, so I guess I had the bird strike, but he rotated out, and neither one of us saw it. It was red tail hawk. You can't really train for how to react to that, but we heard a thud, and all of a sudden, he went your controls, I went my controls, and we're both quickly scanning, and it felt like it was maybe 10 seconds or less. Everything looks fine, and he's like, "Is it the engine?" "No, it's not that." I was like, "Did we lose a strut?" And we both looked outside. "No, it's not that." And then just kind of scanning everywhere else to see what doesn't belong, and I saw this one little piece of metal just kind of hanging off the leading edge of the left wing, and I instantly knew what happened because I remembered back to when I was a student pilot. My instructor showed me a photo that his instructor had, taken of a plane when they had been in flight training, and the damage looked the exact same. So I calmed down. I was like, "Hey, we hit a bird," and at that point, just kind of had to fly the pattern at a lower than TPA and get back, and everything was fine. I didn't necessarily know everything was fine at the time, but the plane handled fine. The instruction or the gauges all read fine. There was no liquid coming out of the wings. I knew we hadn't like pierced the fuel or anything. So that was certainly interesting and memorable. In terms of funny, the cockpit's a hilarious place. Being a flight instructor or being a student pilot, that bond, like sure, instructor, student, I'm piloting command, you're here to learn. It's my job to serve you as the client, but also keep you alive. But it's one of the rare things, like if you're a pitcher and I'm your pitching coach, we're not putting our lives in each other's hands. Whereas up there, you're the student pilot, I'm the instructor, or vice versa. We are trusting the other one to be
Right.
not somebody who's gonna kill us or maim us or whatever. So there's a lot of bonding that happens up there, and there's a lot of funny stuff.
Yeah. A lot of funny conversations are had in the cockpit.
Yeah.
A lot of jokes that probably aren't the right. This probably isn't the right place for.
Respect the privacy of the cockpit.
100%. Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of good stuff that happens up there. We had talked earlier about the learning from your mistakes. That's one thing I tell every pilot when I fly for them the first time. Generally, I'm flying with these student pilots that I haven't flown with before.
Right.
But I won't let you do anything illegal. I won't let you do anything unsafe. I will let you make mistakes because that's how we learn. And so I take that as well. Like, we're going to go fly later and I'm sure I'm going to make mistakes, but I'll learn from that.
Likewise. It's been at least a couple weeks since I've been at the helm, so this will be fun, most definitely. So back to a little bit more of like your growth and networking and how you're setting yourself up to have these opportunities. Was networking always something that you were good at?
I think so. I didn't always know it was networking that I was good at. It was just talking to people and making friends everywhere I went. And to be fair, it wasn't until much later in life where I even realized like not everybody does that. So yeah, from an early age, I guess I was very good at networking. My whole life growing up in San Diego, I always was getting to work Comic-Con or action sports retail and stuff like that just by talking to people, meeting them, and then being like, hey, come hang out at our Xbox booth or this or that or whatever the answer is. Anywhere I go around the world, I'm meeting people and making friends. And so, yeah, bringing that into a career has been very helpful. And while everybody I meet most people I meet, it probably won't lead to an opportunity, but you just don't know. Like, hey, I can connect this dot and this dot and this dot together, and then that's going to spring, an infinite amount of options from it, and that'll might lead to something. You just never know when you're in the same room as somebody who might change your life.
Right, 100%. And even if it's like not, a professional opportunity, maybe it's just that one conversation and the beer that you share with that person where you're like, this was an amazing night.
Yeah.
I'm glad I met that person. I learned something from them. I learned something about where they're from, which is neat and out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
So, just for some people who are like super career oriented, who like if it doesn't help their career they're not interested at all, it's okay to just meet people for the sake of meeting them and like gaining friends.
Yeah, exactly. And not every friend's going to be a forever friend. A friend might just be someone who's your friend for the time that you need it in your life. But yeah, like you said, the thing you learn from them, that could stay with you forever. And at the same time, maybe 5 years down the line, all of a sudden someone's like, hey, this is blah blah blah, I met you at this one thing and I need somebody for this. And it's
Yep.
like, okay, cool.
We've covered the importance of networking, how to get into it, the fact that not everything in your network has to be for like personal or financial gain. Back into you kind of your CFI journey, what would you say was like the biggest growth moment for you as a CFI?
Biggest growth.
Yeah. Like what hit you like, oh man, like this is like I'm really doing this now.
Uh might have been, still be, it's anytime like I'm sitting next to somebody and they can do that first unassisted landing, but then it hits me again when they do it again and then again. And it's like, sweet, I actually am doing this and capable of doing this because I've just taken someone who was not a pilot to unassisted landing an airplane. Now their journey is still very long after that, but just seeing that and being able to, sit there like this in the cockpit without even having to shadow the yoke and being afraid that like, ooh, something's gonna happen. It's a really cool feeling because I remember when I first started being able to land an airplane and be like, oh damn, this is real. And now I'm able to take that feeling and give it to somebody else or help them earn it, might be a better way to say it, because they are doing the hard work and sitting there learning.
What do you like the most about being a CFI? You mentioned being a teacher, so like you already had that in you, but what is it about being a CFI that you enjoy the most?
On a personal level, it's just the fact that every day is a little bit different, which is something I was looking for back in the conversation of what's my career going to be now that I'm stopping the other stuff. But yeah, I don't want another job where every day I show up and I sit in a cubicle and I type on a screen. Respect to the people who do have that and do want that or need to do that for whatever, circumstance they are at in life.
Yeah.
But I knew I didn't want that for myself. I need that sense of adventure where every day is a little bit different. So if I get in that cockpit every single day, it doesn't matter if I'm doing the same exact lesson with two different people, even if it's the same exact weather conditions, it's going to be different. If I'm in the pattern for, an hour and a half helping somebody work on their, shorts or softs, like it's going to be different every single time we're in the pattern. And so, yeah, that's one of the things I love about being a flight instructor. And the other is just being able to watch them grow and getting paid for it. Like I can't look at an airfield and name every single airplane that's on there. I'm not one of those pilots. But I really do love what I do, and I get to show up to work every day. It hit me the other day that like for like the last 4 months or something like that since I joined Flight Dogs, I've been showing up, and I haven't even been like, oh my god, I'm going to work. It's been like I'm going to the airfield and flying airplanes, and all of a sudden it's like, oh cool, I'm getting paid to do something I love, and then at the end of the day, go home to the woman I love. It's great.
Perfect. Exactly. And then you get to look down at all the flat-footed earthwalkers.
Yeah, all the land lovers, ground peasants. That's what I called them.
I love that. The dirty, dark truth of aviation in terms of getting your PPL. 65 to 70% of people who start don't finish.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think has attributed to that?
There's a movie in the 80s. It was about going to space. I forget what it was, but to take a line from them, what is it that keeps airplanes in the sky? Money. What gets you your PPL? Money. Yes, time and dedication, but a lot of people don't understand what the costs are up front. So like anybody who's going to be going into this journey, that's one of the questions you should be asking, not just, your local airfield or your local flight school, or your local flying club, but do your homework. Maybe that airfield that is an extra 30 minutes away from you for your commute, so that's X amount of extra time every day or every week that you're spending to get out there. But ultimately, it might be the better investment. Maybe that further airfield has a school that charges $40 more an hour or something like that for a flight instructor's time. But if they have a better program in place or maybe a better location in terms of being able to go practice things that you need to practice, or even just a more experienced and seasoned staff, that extra money up front or at the time may save you money overall. So, yeah, finances would be the first thing. And sorry, can you remind me of the question again?
Well, the question was like, why is it that you think a large number of student pilots don't achieve their student pilot license? Why is like the attrition rate so high?
So the money part is the first one. And then the second is the industry is built in a way currently, I think it's changing, but it also is a matter of where you go, that flight instructor is just something you do to then do something else. And whether somebody realizes it, consciously, I'm sure that everybody subconsciously can realize if that person who's instructing me actually wants to be there and cares about putting out a good product rather than just being like, hey, I'm here. We're going to go do a 1.7 flight so I can build my hours to eventually go do whatever it is I want to do. So the industry needs to change that and allow flight instructing to be a career choice, which for some people it is and already. I'm not saying this is across the board, but most places it's kind of get a CFI in, let them make that place as much money as possible, and then 18 months down the line or 16 or 14, whatever the answer is, they're gone to something else. And the whole time they've been looking at something else. They've just been doing this.
Right.
And so then a lot of these places also, it's like, oh, we only hire people who've been through our program. They're not doing themselves any favor because they have people who don't want to be teaching at the program, teaching people who then don't want to be at the program, teaching the things they learned. And it's just this unbroken chain. So a lot of the attrition rate, I assume, I've done zero research in terms of going out and reading things. It's just what I see and experience, that a lot of people give up on the journey because they think that's just how instructors are and they don't actually care about me. And so then they're like, nah, I'm going to go do something else. But if you really are a good instructor, you can take the fact that you're passionate for it and knowledgeable about it, put that into somebody, and then realize if they're starting to pull away for whatever reason, be like, hey, okay, maybe I'm not the right instructor for you, but I know all these other people who are instructors. Maybe you connect with them better. And so if we can make the industry into a way where teaching is a full-time job, then I think we can see that. I think you said 65 or 70%. I think that number could go down because nobody wants to spend all day next to somebody who's not passionate about what they're doing.
Perfect. Another thing is like that I was thinking about. It's like unrealistic expectation. Like when we see ads, like if you an ad pops up for a flight school on Instagram or whatever medium of social media you're on, you see it saying, get your private pilot license in 30 days, costs, let's say, $13,000, and that's not realistic for most people.
No.
Like unless in those 30 days you're flying, call it, I don't know, the average I think is somewhere around 75, 80 hours to get a PPL. And then you start looking at what an airplane rental costs just for the airplane alone, at average between 175 and 240 an hour for a 172 or its counterpart, or a Cherokee or something of that nature.
Yeah.
And we're talking like six pack with G5s, not G1000s. So when you look at that cost alone, and then the instructor being 80 to 100, and then the check ride, it's like how did this number come about? Because that's not realistic to say that you're going to get it done for 8,000, 12,000. The real number is somewhere between 18 to 24,000, depending on how, if you're just an average person. Now if you're exceptional because you spend every hour outside of like flight training, being in the airplane, actually studying and being dialed and focusing on that, then yes, you might be able to be one of those rare people who can get it done at or around 40 hours. But for most of us, the average people, we're going to be far above 40 hours.
Yeah. It's, I mean, the expectation is to be set up front, but kind of what about you, or what you said about like these accelerated programs, for some people, they do work. Right. But there's certain programs out there that says, get your private pilot in 2 weeks or something like that. And that may be enough time to go do the required 40 hours of flying. That may be enough time to do your study for your written and get it done, or some of them also say have your written done beforehand or something like that. Speaking for myself, that is not enough time to actually know what you're doing behind the yoke and be a safe and competent pilot. It may be enough time for somebody to put the money down on the table, spend 2 weeks at a place, take a check ride, and pass.
Right.
But you then have no experience. You have 2 weeks of experience to then rent an airplane and go do what the privileges of a private pilot can give you.
Right.
You didn't have a chance to learn, maybe even process and understand this is what I'm saying. You might have just memorized everything on a flashcard. So yeah, that can be a very dangerous way to do it. But again, there's people out there who can sit down and do it, and they're annoying because they're just good at everything they do the first time they do it. Yeah. And then it's even worse if they're really nice and they try and help you. And it's just like, why do you get this so quickly and I don't?
Definitely. Yeah. So just be careful. Make sure you have your expectations realistic. It's very unrealistic. I'm going to get my PPL in a month. That's what I thought when I was coming. Oh, I'm going to get it done in 30 days or a month and a half. Man, this stuff took me almost a year and a half. I struggled mightily with landings. I was somewhere close to about 100 hours when I got my PPL. But the reality is none of that matters. Yeah. As long as you don't go through financial hardship and that's what makes you stop. If you're motivated, you spend the time with the book work. I was dialed when it came to that. It's just that I couldn't land the plane to save my life. So that was my struggle. And my instructor and I were very strict. We wanted good, smooth landings. I could put the plane down on the runway all day. I could hit my mark, but it may not be a nice, soft, smooth one. So we were working on not just being proficient, but being like good, like actually good. That was the goal before, he knows my goal. I'm going to go out and fly with my family, friends, now wife, potentially children. So his thing was, the last thing I want is my friend who I've spent all this time in this cockpit to read or hear that he passed away in an airplane accident, when it's like, how could this have been prevented? Oh, I could have been more strict on him to make him quote unquote closer to be, to have him seek being perfect. I'm never going to be perfect. I don't ever think I will be, but I want to be as good as possible. So if that's chasing perfection forever, so be it.
That's your journey. Aviation is a journey. And everyone's is different. So people, one thing I see, and this kind of ties into something else we were talking about, people tend to forget why a lot of us want to be pilots, and that's because it's fun. We need to be safe. There's things we need to do to be legal, but aviation also needs to be fun. And so a lot of those sped up programs and stuff, you can't have fun if you're burning through 40 hours of flight time in a week just to try and get a private pilot and study everything. it is fun. And so there's something to be said for being able to go out and instead of having, a back-to-back 2-hour schedule blocked for your planes, let your students and your instructors book it for 4 hours. And then on that cross country that they're doing, fly someplace, park the plane, flight instructor, turn off your clock, be there, have a burger, get to know your client, and stuff like that. Clients maybe offer to, buy the burger if you're in a financial situation that you can. I don't know. You guys' journey is your own, but go out and fly to that place and don't just go there, do a landing, taxi back, whatever your purpose is that day, and then return home, turn the airplane off, and go your separate ways. Like, have a point for doing that cross country. We're going out there. There's a really good burger here. Cool. I'm going to eat that burger. We're making memories. And now we fly back. Have fun on the journey to help yourself remember that it's not just the ACS that I need to worry about. It's why am I doing this?
That's a great point because the person that shapes your aviation career the most or how you view aviation is your PPL flight instructor. And for many people, it's quite a few of them you have because of that, churn and burn. I've got my hours. It's time to move on with my career kind of thing, which is fine. I get it. But those are the people that shape like how you view aviation. So if you build those fond memories and have a good time during your training, aviation will always be fun. It won't just be, oh man, it's the grind today. I've got to go fly a plane and we're going to go do this type of landing, which I'm not good at, or this maneuver that I've been terrible at. And I'm frustrated. My instructor's frustrated. Well, it's like, no, remember why you're flying. Flying is fun. And there were days where I was frustrated. And my instructor looked at me and went, hey man, let's go fly over there and go look at the mountains, or let's go down nice and low and look at some stuff and just enjoy for a little.
Yeah.
And remember why you're doing this. I see you're frustrated and you're not going to get this right now. So we can do it 10 more times today and you'll be frustrated. Or we can go enjoy ourselves. You'll have fun flying. And then you come back. We'll debrief what went wrong, what to do better, and what to think about for the next time. And then this we're going to go at next time. But being upset and frustrated in the airplane is never a good thing.
No, you're not going to learn. And if you show up to the airfield with the mentality that you just said of, I got to go fly an airplane, shut up, hang the keys up, go home. You get to go fly an airplane. Right. That is cool. And it's fun. Like, of course, you got to be safe. You got to be legal and all of that stuff. But we get to fly airplanes. Like, if I am I've got a couple students now who all started at roughly the same time. So they're at roughly the same point in their journey, which is now we're in the pattern. Let's get you learning how to land. So if I have 3 students in a single day who are all in the pattern and we're just flying, making left rectangles or right rectangles, depending on the traffic pattern, I have to remind myself, I'm getting to fly. I'm looking down at all these people. This is fun. And then as soon as I remember that, I'm like, oh yeah, like what am I talking about? I have to fly the pattern 3 times in a row today. No, I get to go fly. And then as I'm doing it, I'm talking to somebody, I'm bonding with them. I'm making memories, hopefully good ones. To me, they're good memories. They, I guess I should have one-on-ones with each of them every now and then. But yeah, we get to fly, not I gotta fly.
Mindset is the most important thing when getting into aviation, because it's challenging, it's dangerous, and the thing that hurts us all the most is it costs a lot of money.
Come fly with Osa and I. We like to go fly for fun. We like to go find good burgers and stuff like that. So if you're forgetting that it's supposed to be fun, come find us.
100%. I put on a monthly brunch event every month. About 40 pilots fly to a different airport of my choosing. We have brunch. We tell stories. You make new friends, people to fly with. That's actually how I met Jack here, and some other folks that I've met along the way. So definitely get into the networking, have fun. Don't just focus on flight training as flight training. Like, have a good time. Maybe there's an event going on at an airport nearby. If your CFI is available, you can get the plane, fly there, enjoy the event a bit. Or if you have to drive and enjoy the event. Surround yourself with aviation in a fun way. Don't just get stuck in the hamster wheel where like flight training becomes like a boring job, or like the classes in school that started to drag on that you hated, because that's not it. That's not what aviation is about.
And don't be worried if you're not that experienced. Everybody starts off bad at something. What was it? Jake the dog in Adventure Time said the first step to being good is being bad. So we all start there. And so if you're at an airfield and there's a group of pilots or mechanics or somebody talking, don't be afraid to go up and be like, I'm sorry, I don't know what that means or how this is. Ask questions. That's the greatest way to network, is ask people questions, because people like to answer questions, be helpful, but they also like to talk about themselves or their own journey. So if you ask questions, show that you don't understand something, somebody will help you out, because it's not like oh, you're a student pilot and I fly for Alaska, I sit at the cool kids table and you don't. No, it's, I've been where you were. I get that you don't understand it. Try it this way. Now, that being said, not everybody who might answer your question is going to answer it good. Just like if you go on, answer it well, that's proper English. If you go on YouTube and look up aviation stuff, you're going to find a lot of stuff. Now, be careful what you watch, because not every video that's on there is going to say or be correct or be safe or be legal. So, just the same thing when you're talking to people and asking questions, don't take it, as gospel if the captain of something way bigger for the airline says this is how this is done or this is why it's done.
Right.
They're human too. They can make mistakes, and what may be correct for the plane they're flying may not be correct for the plane you're flying. But at least take away from this, ask questions, admit when you don't know something, and you're gonna start networking just with that alone.
No, that's incredible advice, and that reminds me of something that I wanted to touch on, because we talked about like the financial strain that aviation can put on somebody. So for anybody that's out there that is interested in aviation, or you're already a pilot and you're looking to get your next rating but aren't quite sure how you're going to pay for it, there is an amazing resource out there, aviationstart.org. It's 100% free, and it is the largest database for scholarships in the world, mainly obviously US focused, but it has everything, all 20 million dollars worth of scholarships that are out there. They're all listed on this website, and it will tell you exactly what the requirements are, if you need to live in a certain area, age group, etc., and what those specific scholarships are for. They have scholarships for people who are looking to obviously become pilots, get ratings, people who want to become mechanics, as well as folks who are looking to become controllers. So there are resources out there. Aviationstart.org, and that was put together by Jamel Larkins, who I had on the podcast a few months ago. Again, that's tagged down below. I don't get any money from this. This is 100% free to you, and I'm just saying it because my whole goal in aviation was to inspire more people to become pilots and enjoy having some of the fun that I've been so fortunate to have.
Hell yeah.
All right, so now let's jump into the rapid fire round.
All right.
So your dream cockpit, if you could fly any plane, past, present, or experimental, what would that be?
Off the top of my head, I don't exactly know what because he passed away when I was 8 years old, but he was a dogfighter for the Air Force in World War II on the European front, and my grandfather came back a decorated hero. I have no interest in strafing runs and stuff like that on people or towns and stuff, but those planes were built to fly and fly very fast and do some amazing things. So I think it'd be pretty cool to, just for that connection to my past in terms of what my grandfather did, it'd be cool to A, figure out what it was he flew, and B, find a way to get in that and fly it.
Okay, I'm thinking that was probably a P-47. I think one of my buddies, Zach, that was on the podcast early this year or late last year, he said his grandfather flew that. I want to say in World War II as well, and it was a P-47, which was a pretty badass plane.
And maybe some of your viewers might know, like I've tried Googling his name and stuff like that, but not really anything's popped up, which is not, surprising. But if somebody out there knows a way to look at World War II Air Force pilots' records and stuff like that, it'd be really cool to figure out.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, if you do know something, please put it in the comments below. We'd be happy to, find out and learn. So must-have gear for you as a pilot and instructor. What one piece of aviation-related tech or gear do you absolutely not fly without?
Absolutely not fly without. The weird answer would be batteries. Batteries for my headset, because when I started my flight journey, I bought that $90 pair of headphones, and they were fine.
Yep.
And then when I became a CFI and realized I was gonna be doing this every day, I put the money down on the Bose. But really, anybody with any kind of noise canceling can understand what it's like when you're flying along, all of a sudden the battery dies, and now you're back to listening to blah, 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 and it's just like, oh god damn.
Right.
So I just want to hear nice things. So yeah, one thing I'll never fly without is a spare set of batteries. Now there's obviously a bunch of other safety stuff, but
Right.
if that's gonna be my my luxury item, that's what I'll fly with.
Okay, awesome. I too do keep two extra sets of batteries in my flight bag.
This would be the other one, water bottle. I know some people don't like anything in their cockpit, and that's fine, but I'm always, even when I'm walking around day to day, like right here, I have it with me because I'm constantly thirsty. And as a CFI, you monologue a lot. And having to fly an airplane on a hot summer day while monologuing and ensuring that they're getting something useful out of it and worth their time and money, yeah, it's very easy to be like, I need some water.
Snack attack. What's your go-to in-flight snack on a long cross country?
My go-to would be beef jerky.
Okay.
And I've thought about this. Obviously, there's some beef jerkies that could go against this, but for the most part, I feel like I'm correct. It doesn't leave, a residue on your hands that you could then get out. Like if you're eating Cheetos, or I was thinking chocolate, but yeah, Cheetos. But I was then gonna touch on chips, stuff like that, crumbs. There's really nothing. There's a lot of annoying things that happen when you open up a cockpit and expect to just go fly. But one of them would be if you open up the cockpit and there's crumbs all over the floor or all the seat, especially like if you're flying in the context of I'm at work, I'm the you're paying me for a service right now, and I open up the cockpit and you're paying what I know is a good amount of money, and then we open it up and there's just food everywhere. Like that's poor looks. Yeah. But yeah, so beef jerky would be my go-to because for the most part, it doesn't leave crumbs and it doesn't make my fingers sticky and good to go, and it's really tasty, and you got a bunch of flavor options.
All right, so diner diaries. Which airport, diner, or restaurant would you drop everything to fly to?
Don't know that I know enough about them. I certainly have a bucket list of places I want to fly. Like growing up in San Diego, love to land at Catalina. Haven't done that yet. As a kid, I used to visit family on the East Coast, and we'd go down to like Kitty Hawk and stuff in the Outer Banks, and that's the birthplace of aviation. So I would love to go and land there. But in terms of diners, I don't know enough off the top of my head to be like this one, or this one. However, everybody talks about the $100 burger. Love burgers, love sandwiches. Also a big fan of hot dogs and burritos. So if anybody knows, hey, this place does a great hot dog or a great burrito, put it in his comments, and then I'll read the video or the comments, and let's go fly and find some places like that. Show me why a diner is a good place to fly into. I'll fly anywhere.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm very food motivated. So, like, for me, part of this adventure was to fly around, go place to eat that I want to go. Another one I got to go check out very soon. I want to go up to Dunsmuir and go to Yaks on the Five, which has been voted, I think, twice now as a top 100 burger in the country.
I've never heard of that before.
And it's a cool little spot just right outside of Mount Shasta.
The advantage of being friends is this stuff. And I'm like, cool, let's go.
So we'll have to go check that one out pretty soon.
If you do suggest burritos, again, being where I'm from, I'm very, very not snobby, but I have high standards about burritos. Yeah, if you're gonna suggest a burrito, I'm down to try it. But if you're gonna claim it's a really good burrito, San Diego standards for burritos are way up here. Doesn't mean I haven't had a good burrito elsewhere. I've had them in, Shanghai, New England. I've had them here in the Bay. I've had them in LA. I've had them in Virginia. But I do have that standard. So if you're gonna suggest a burrito, just know while I'll be grateful for the suggestion, I may judge you.
Oh, 100%. The one thing that Californians are most bougie about outside of our weather and our flip-flops is definitely our Mexican food. Tex-Mex is out, I'm sorry. But moving on. What's your favorite airplane sound? Is it the roar of the engine? Is it that nice little squeak when you come in and butter a landing?
When you land at a field in Mexico, like a private airfield for a good surfing trip, now you've turned the airplanes off and it's time to enjoy a week of camping and surfing and stuff like that. There's some great noises that come from that.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
That sounds like a trip worth doing.
We'll get down there. We'll definitely do that.
What is one goal that you still have to accomplish?
One goal. Well, for longer than it probably should have taken, just due to non-aviation stuff, I have been saying I'm working on my double I. I intend to get it. I think I've said it once or twice on this podcast. But yeah, so that's my next goal, is to get my double I.
Your landing playlist. What song would you have playing every time you came in and buttered a landing? Like, what would your theme song be?
Oh, anybody, like any of my clients can probably attest to this. I tend to find myself being like da, 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 or something random, and just like kind of making my own orchestra to the things, just having fun with it. So I guess it'd be funny, at least to me, if there was a microphone that other people could hear the noises I'm humming along to and having a good time on landing.
So you'd be dancing to the beat of your own drum. Got
Yeah,
you.
just kind of. I'm not a beatboxer by any means, but I guess I'd be beatboxing my landings and having fun with it.
Well, that's all I've got for the rapid fire round.
Okay.
Jack, thank you so much for coming on the show, for sharing your insights, your fun, and your love for aviation. Where can listeners find you? I know you're not the biggest on social media. You're not necessarily super into that. But if anybody wants to follow along with your journey or has any questions, where can they find you?
Yeah, so like you said, I don't do a lot on social media. I have it. I'm not, a Neanderthal or something like that. You can find me on Instagram. It's the Jack Grubb. He'll put the spelling up. Tend to accept a lot of people that I don't know. I did recently start an Instagram for my LLC for aviation, and that's Safe Flight USA. Pretty sure that's what it is. I'll double check with him and he can put it up. That'll probably be more likely to allow people to follow just because, but there's no content on it yet. Sorry. But I do recognize the powers that be in the world we live in. Yeah. We need to have something. But also, you can, email me, which he'll put that up for everybody. Or if in doubt, message Osa with any opportunities and questions you have, and he can forward it to me, and we'll all figure it out together because that's my buddy. We've networked together, and yeah, we're gonna be flying together. So if you have something you want to say to me, you can say it to him. But otherwise, he'll put some stuff up.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you guys so much out there for watching. As always, it's an honor and it's a blast. Please make sure you leave a review or comment. This video podcast will be on YouTube. Otherwise, the audio version will be on all of your podcast streaming platforms. It's time for Jack and I to head to the airport. We're going to go fly around in the 182. That video will be available on my main channel, The Official Fly Media. As always, may there be wind beneath your wings. Peace.